welcome to another session of Ask the Tend Coaches session. Today we're going to be talking about prototypes and user research. We've been getting a bunch of questions about that, and hopefully this video can help resolve some of those uncertainties that you might have. So first, let's go over the different types of prototypes that we discuss both in class and in the projects. So there's more or less 4 levels of prototyping. At the very bottom, you have what we call the low fidelity prototype. And that prototype is something that is simple as a piece of paper with some drawings on it that you've created just to try and simulate the basic design and user interface for your app. Next up is the medium fidelity prototype. And what that is all the components of the low fidelity plus some components of interactivity. So whether that be something like an Envision system where you can click on certain aspects of your design that will lead you to different pages. Again, with a medium fidelity prototype, it can still be hand-drawn sketches, but we expect that interactivity to kind of be a part of the whole experience. One important thing with medium fidelity prototypes for your projects is that they need to be independent of whatever platform it runs on. So, for example, we've had some students submit prototypes that can only be run on a Windows computer. And we can't accept those just because some of our reviewers use Mac computers, and frankly, some we just don't know what they're using. And so that's why we need cross-platform. Really good examples of cross-platform prototyping tools would be Envision, just a simple PowerPoint. You can set up interactivity points there nowadays. Also a tool called Pixate. And we cover all those things both in the product design as well as the rapid prototyping classes. Okay, so then layer 3 is what we call the high fidelity prototype. And that would be much more interactivity, even with some almost exchange of data and some more kind of active, whether it be, for example, if it was, say, like a Facebook-like app, a high fidelity prototype would be something such that I could create a post, right? I could type it in and hit submit and see what the experience was like. With some high fidelity prototypes, just depending on your idea, will involve some coding to it. And because of that, we don't require any of the projects to have a high fidelity prototype submitted with it. But just in general, just to let you all know what the different layers are. So then the top layer, level 4, would be more or less your minimum viable product, which we call the MVP for short. And that would be completely coded, designed and ready for whatever platform you're going to implement it on, whether it be a mobile or web app. And that would basically be the bare bones, smallest amount of kind of tasks or work that your app performs to get the problem done that you want to solve. And so hopefully that will clear up some of your questions on what different prototypes we kind of define, where it's best. I mean, with any idea, you always start at the foundation, right? You just can't jump right into level 4 because you don't have all that work before it to help guide you with the process. And so prototypes are really one of the, I would say, kind of focal points for your user research. So I would say there's probably a couple types of user research. Predominantly, there's 2 that we ask you to do in class. One is just more or less idea validation, where you just go and talk with people, meet with people, try to get an understanding of the problem that they have. So for example, if my idea is to simplify grocery shopping, I might go to a grocery store and just interact with people, try to get a sense of how much time it takes them each week to do grocery shopping, you know, what really annoys them about it, where it could be improved upon. And in that kind of stage of just trying to validate my idea, I'm not going to be talking about my product at all. I'm going to be out there just trying to get a sense of who my users might be. Maybe I discover for my grocery shopping idea that through just kind of that anecdotal, just conversing with people, that a certain age group really fits in, maybe males 20 to 30, really fit well with the idea that I have. So then stage 2 of user research would be actually bringing in a prototype. So imagine I go to the same grocery store now, but instead of just trying to relate with the people, I have a conversation with them about my prototype. I show it to them. I just kind of give them a simple prompt, such as, how would you interact with this? What do you think can be accomplished with this app? Pretend that you can interact with it. It's just really open questions like that. We don't recommend showing your prototype and being, this is a grocery shopping app that you can use for X, Y, and Z. That's not the best way to approach user research with prototypes, because realistically in real life, when a person downloads whatever product you have, they're not going to have you there to tell them exactly what it is and what it does. The design has to speak for itself. It has to have a really good user interface. And so that's one aspect of user research that's really key to pay attention to. Do people get stuck? Do they have confusion on what the app actually does? Is there a certain process that is kind of really indirect for them? Really just try and have a conversation with the people. See what they like about it, see what they don't enjoy. Try to get a sense of the user experience. Did they feel like the app was really easy for them to use? It didn't require a lot of training or thought for it. Things like that will help you progress your idea to a product much faster than just thinking what might be the problem areas and then just going from prototype to fully built coded app. Because what we're trying to do is just save you guys time, right? So imagine you didn't do any of the previous work of user research or prototypes. You just said, this idea is the best. I'm just going to code it out. And then you launch it out into the marketplace, and a month down the line, you basically have no users, and then you're kind of left wondering, well, let's say that something like the checkout feature of your app was just too confusing, it took too long, and users just didn't know how to interact with it. And so you went and spent all that work launching a product, then unfortunately failed because of something that could have been discovered through your user research. So essentially, hopefully, that will provide you some better ideas of the techniques. Now, the who in user research, the specific people that you'll actually be interacting with. Of course, we don't recommend discussing things with family or friends, just because they have a bias already, they know you. They probably won't give you the harshest of criticisms depending on your relationship with them. And so to get the most out of your research, you want to go and find the actual users that you predict will be consuming your product. Go out and just have conversations with people. It doesn't have to be anything formal. You don't have to rent out a space and bring in like a focus group. While that's great, it's also expensive. You can just say I have an app that deals with outdoor activities. And so I'll just go to a park and just walk around and ask people if they can give 5 minutes of their time to talk about my product. That's, in all honesty, the best and most valuable feedback you'll ever get. No amount of surveys that you do online or, trying to weasel your way out of talking with people, there's no replacement for it. It's the best resource you can ever have. I know we've also had a few questions about kind of best practices for design. Really, it's product to product. Certainly there are general kind of best practices when it comes to things. A really good example is just check out Amazon.com, specifically their checkout feature. See how that's set up, because that's kind of right now the benchmark for checkout. They have kind of the highest conversion rates, which means once a person gets to checkout with an item, what percentage actually complete the transaction. Because if you have a big drop-off of people putting things who intend to buy, but then never do, that could be an indicator that the process that you're kind of asking them for money is too difficult or is kind of time-consuming, and so users just leave. And then finally, I know there was a question about patents. There have been some cases where apps or their interfaces have been granted patents. Patenting is a very time-consuming and long process. We don't recommend seeking out patents from whatever national government that you reside in, but the main logic behind that is through your user research and iterating through your prototypes, your conceived ideal user interface that you send to the patent office day 1 might look nothing like what you end up with on day 60 after you've done the full process and where you feel comfortable. And so you might spend thousands of dollars to get a patent that you never use, or vice versa. The patent office is more or less not the most, depending on who receives your request. There have been plenty of cases where app ideas have not been granted patents, because really patents are used for kind of the way of doing things, not just a thing, right? So for example, I can't just patent a new design for a coffee maker because coffee makers have been around for a long time ago. And so if I come up with a new coffee process or a way to make coffee, I can patent that. So you can kind of see the difference between things. A lot of times app design isn't really considered a way of doing things. So I know we covered a lot. Hopefully that covers some of the base questions that you all have had or have been floating around in your head. Please don't hesitate to send us more. Again, you can find the form to send us these questions on all the forum threads, as well as in one of your welcome emails that you received. So please use this resource. We're happy to answer all questions that you may have. And until then, have fun learning. Thanks.